Hi everyone, this is the opening video for our course, which is Knowledge, Responsibility, and Society, Philosophy 5665. Welcome to class, and in this video I want to talk through what's going to happen in this course, how it's structured, what the texts are, what the kind of work is that you're going to be doing, and most importantly the kinds of questions that are going to be central to what we want to talk about in this course. So what I want to do is walk through the course shell, which you will become very familiar with as you go through this course. This is, after all, the kind of central place where you're going to be able to find everything in the course. So let's jump over to that. Here we go. And so this course is it's an ethics course in that it is part of the Theoretical and Applied Ethics Certificate, and it's also, I think, listed as an ethics course in quite a number of programs around the university, which is great. But it's a bit unusual as ethics courses go, because I am not going to simply talk about ethical theory in this course. I want to take the title of the course very seriously: Knowledge, Responsibility, and Society. What I want to do in this course is to look at the intersection of three, I guess, central concepts that really make ethics a much more complex but also rich sort of discussion than often it ends up being. So we have these three terms: knowledge, responsibility, and society. When we talk about knowledge, as philosophers, we are talking about epistemology. But we're talking about theories of knowledge in general, so maybe something broader than epistemology. For many philosophers, epistemology refers to how we justify knowledge, how we tell the difference between knowledge and what's not knowledge, maybe like opinion or something like that. And all of those are important questions, without a doubt. But it's broader than that, right? I mean, there are questions of how we come to knowledge, so what might be called cognition in other fields. The kind of circumstances under which we ought to have knowledge or ought not to have knowledge. And so that's the first kind of question. It's a broad version of epistemology, okay? So knowledge, responsibility, and so I'm taking the word responsibility to refer to ethics itself. What does it mean to be responsible? What does it mean to fulfill your place in society, your place in a family, your place in a group? Who are you responsible to? Many times when we think about ethics, we think about what you might think of as ethical codes that are set up by professional organizations, let's say, or even the university would have one, for example, or just about any large organization you talk about is going to have a set of standards that they might call ethics, that's if you follow those things, you are regarded as being ethical. Well, is that really what ethics is about? Is it just following a code? Is it about essentially behaving yourself? In other words, is it about not breaking rules or not breaking laws? Is it something more than that? Is it about thriving rather than just surviving? Is an ethical life about living the good life as opposed to just not living the bad life? And most importantly, how does it relate to what I just said about epistemology? What responsibilities do we have towards knowledge? Let's suppose that we have a kind of a scientifically produced knowledge. Well, do we have responsibility towards implementing the results of that science, especially given that science is always provisional, at least in the sense that it's not truth that's dropped from on high, but it's the best explanation that we have for the phenomena at a particular time. What responsibility do we have towards knowledge that individuals have? What does individual privacy mean? So there's a lot of questions that overlap between epistemology and ethics. And then the third concept, society, what I take that to be talking about is really social organization, social institutions. So what does it mean to be ethical within an institution? And that kind of institution could be a literal one, like let's say a university, for example. Or it could be, the institution of journalism, or the institution of nursing, or the institution of law, or you can think of any number of these sorts of things. We might think about society itself as being a kind of institution in that it has practices and policies and all sorts of things like that. So what does it mean to be ethical within that kind of space, especially given that some of those social institutions or social organizations might have a kind of bottom line goal of, let's say, profit maximization for shareholders. What does it mean to be ethical within a space when there's a kind of motivated interest for the institution or organization? What does it mean, therefore, to be a whistleblower? What does it mean to kind of go for a higher version of ethics than the institution itself is willing to support? So there's a lot of questions that kind of come at the borders of these three concepts. So that's when I'm saying, what I want to talk about in this course is not just, a bunch of ethical theories and how we apply those, or, the problem cases or things like that. I really want to talk about ethics as it appears or as it exists in the real world. And so we're going to be looking at a lot of very contemporary examples, but, that's in a certain sense, the latter 2/3 of the course, let's put it that way. The first third of the course is going to be a kind of quick survey of some philosophical texts, both Western and non-Western, that in some sense catch us up with the conversation around ethics in the context of epistemology and social institutions. I am under no illusion that people in this course are going to have a philosophical background. Most of you probably won't, and that's fine. But this is a philosophy course. And so I want everyone to have a kind of common basis, of some texts. If you do have a philosophy background, that's awesome. That's wonderful. I hope you bring that background into our course. And I hope you bring like authors in that you've studied elsewhere, readings that you've studied elsewhere. If you've got that background, that's all to the good. But everyone coming into this course has a background. Maybe you have a background in nursing, or maybe in engineering, or maybe in something else, journalism, whatever. You have a background and you've thought about ethical questions. And so I hope you bring all of that to the table in this course. This is a course where I really am going to try and get you to think about how this stuff works within your world, within the world that you inhabit or the world that you are training yourself to be part of. Okay? So I want you to learn about ethics not just in terms of following rules, not just in terms of doing what society would have you do. Many of the most important ethical stances that people have taken through history have pushed back against those social norms. I mean, the arguments against slavery, the arguments for women's rights, the arguments against colonialism, all sorts of these arguments at one point or another required somebody to stand up against the majority of society and say, this is just not right. These people called their friends and neighbors to a higher standard. And ideally, that's, we want that to be an ethical possibility in society. So it can't just be about following rules. It can't just be about being a good citizen in whoever defines what that means. So that's the kind of, goal of this course. And we're going to see that, in a whole bunch of different ways. Let me give you a quick look at the schedule. How this course is going to work is that for the most part, modules will last a week. They will open on Wednesday mornings, and they will close on Tuesday evenings. So 1 week from a Wednesday to the next Tuesday. This module that you're watching this in is the exception to that, because the course starts on a Monday morning, and this module is just introductory, so it's just 2 days long, and it's just really meant to orient you in the course and make sure that we're all on the same page and all of that sort of thing. You can see on the screen here that the first 4 modules here, really through January, have a bunch of readings that try and pick up, really from ancient times to modern times, some important kind of writers on the kinds of central concepts that we're dealing with in this course. So what does it mean for knowledge to be responsible? What does it mean to connect knowledge and the will? What does it mean to be objective versus being engaged? What does it mean to have a knowledge of the self? And obviously there's a whole lot of other questions we could be raising, and some of them will come up during during these discussions. But I've chosen some readings that I think will help us think through some different perspectives. And, I feel like I need to say this in every course, but just because I choose a reading doesn't mean that I advocate what the writer is saying in that text, right? I choose readings because they are important articulations of a position. They contain important ideas. Sometimes I will choose readings that are pretty much in conflict with each other. So none of this should be regarded as me advocating any particular thing. Rather, what I'm trying to get you to do is get your minds in the space of the kinds of questions and the kinds of concepts that are going to be central for this course. So that's the first 4 weeks. Then the next 3 weeks are going to be working through, I'll just switch this back over here, working through this book, which is by Lorraine Code, called Ecological Thinking, The Politics of Epistemic Location. In some sense, this course was developed around this book. Okay, Code is a Canadian philosopher, I think she's retired now, she's alive but retired. And so she really kind of gets at all 3 of these concepts, I think, and brings her own kind of framework and argument towards how these things relate to each other. So we're going to take 3 weeks to do that. And then the next section that we have is going to be what I've called the bioethics section. And so let me just give you a quick look at that. Let's go back over here. So there is a website. You have a link to it in the course shell. This was a commission under President Obama that looked at some really important and central bioethical issues that happened during both of his terms. This website came down once he was no longer president, but it was archived by the University of Georgetown. And so we are looking at the archive, and there's a bunch of different questions that they considered. We're only going to be able to pick 3 of them. But what they have here are kind of source documents and arguments and histories and all sorts of things on some really important and interesting questions in bioethics. And the reason I've chosen this is that I think this is one of those areas that really gets us into all 3 of those concepts in a very important way. Biology and medicine and related areas are large-scale social institutions that we operate within, with lots of rules and lots of laws and lots of interested parties and all of those sorts of things. There is definitely a question of what we know, what we ought to know, how we come to that knowledge. Did we come to it in a legitimate manner? Did we protect people's dignity and autonomy and rights in the process of doing so, or didn't we? And so in all of that, there is the question of what ethical action actually looks like. So that is the the next part of this course, as you can see here under bioethics. Then we've got this book at the end of March, and it's called The Misinformation Age, subtitle How False Beliefs Spread. And so This was published in 2019, I guess. And so we're going to spend a week on that as well. Now, the structure of this course is a little bit different than I would normally teach it, and the reason is that I'm going to be away. I'm going to be in South Africa for April, May, and June. So I'll be in Orlando for up until the end of March. And then we will be continuing in the course as usual, but I've shifted things around a little bit so that what we do in April is really, looking at final papers and so forth. Most of the kind of content of the course will have been done while I'm still here in the U.S. And so I'll be online and I'll be able to interact with everyone and all of that sort of thing, so that won't be a problem. But in April, we'll be focusing on, the latter part of the course. And let me talk about that for a moment here, because that's tied to the actual work of the course. So what am I going to get you to do in this course? Well, I have a little description about what a grad seminar is here. So you can take a look at that. I'm going to go over to the simple syllabus. I should just note that this is not the kind of syllabus that I would have used in the past. We are all mandated by the state of Florida and by the institution, by UCF, to use this syllabus. This format of syllabus does not solve any problems that faculty had, nor does it solve any problems that students had. This is solely a syllabus that is meant for administrators and politicians to be able to easily and quickly surveil syllabi across the entire state. So it actually is a much clunkier syllabus. It's really not a very good interface at all, but we're going to put up with it because we are mandated to do so. So if you look in this, I have some of this information here. I've got the texts linked. And if we come down to the course assessment part, that's the part that's of interest right now. There is, if you've taken a course before here at UCF, you'll know that there is a financial aid grade that's needed right at the beginning of the course. I do it as just a kind of non-credit quiz, so it doesn't affect your final grade, but I would ask you all to please do it because the registrar's office needs a record of you having been in the course. Since it's an online course, there's discussion and participation. That's a total of 20% of the final grade. And those have different kind of prompts each module. The prompts largely come from you. I mean, I have prompts there as well, but what you're going to see here in the next one is a seminar presentation. So I'm asking everyone to do a presentation on one of the module's readings, okay? And there's going to be a sign-up. It's going to be pretty quick, like right now, right at the beginning of the course, so that I can set up a schedule throughout the course. The possible ones for you to do are in January, February, and March. So I would like you to look at those as soon as possible and come up with, let's say, your top 3 modules that you're willing to do a presentation on. And I'm going to have a place that you can post that. And so once I get all of those in, I'll be able to make up a schedule and let you know which one that you get. And as much as possible, I try and get people their highest, highest rated one. So we can talk more about presentations. I talk about it in the syllabus here. You can please take a look through that. It's just like any graduate course presentation, really. I'm interested in you leading the discussion for the course or for that particular module. That means talking about what's in the readings, helping us to understand what's going on in them. You are welcome to bring in other relevant readings or ideas or whatever, particularly if they come from your own disciplinary background. If you say, hey, what we're talking about this week really relates to this thing that is part of my other graduate work. Well, great, tell us about it, right? I think that helps to enrich the course so that we can understand how these things become relevant in different people's contexts. So there will be a presentation. It's due in different weeks. As you can see, You will need something that we can post. Most people do PowerPoints. You can do a kind of talk through on the PowerPoint if you know how to do that. You can do a video if you want. If you want to put it up on YouTube, just you can give me the link to that, and I'll put it in the discussion area. But I will need that basically before the module opens. So let's say if a module opens on a Wednesday, I would need it really at the latest by, let's say, Tuesday afternoon, right before the module opens. So please schedule that in. If you want to do something early, please, that's great. Please do so, and I'll try and get you on the schedule to do something as early as possible if that's what you're interested in doing. So a lot of the discussion in the discussion area is going to be based on the presentation and on the readings for that module. We'll talk through a lot of the stuff in that space. We might disagree with each other in that space, and that's okay, right? I mean, I will want people to treat each other with respect, and to take seriously people's arguments, people's positions, people's backgrounds, all of those sorts of things. But yeah, we may not all come to the same conclusion, and that's okay. I'm not here to tell you how you should think, or what you should think rather, but I'm here to put you in the space that you can learn to think carefully and well. So there is an assignment that I usually call Choose Your Own Text. Here it's called Review of Your Choice of Course Text. So given that this course, given that we have people from so many different backgrounds in this course, what I want to do is to get you to find preferably a book that's related to your interests. So ideally, it's, let's say, if you're from nursing, something in nursing. If you're from engineering or business or whatever it is, something from one of those areas. For some of you, you may have an interest that isn't part of your graduate training. It might be something else that you're involved in. Maybe it's your job or something like that, and that's fine too. If there's a text that you can find that relates to that, that's also relevant to the concepts of the course, right? Because what I'm trying to do with this is to get you to make a connection between knowledge, responsibility, and society, and the kind of best thinking in your academic area, your professional area, your job, whatever it happens to be. Ideally, I want this to be a book, not just an article or something like that. I want it to be something more substantial, with a substantial argument in it. If you're having a hard time finding something, please let me know, and I will try and help you with that. I'm sure we can figure something out. It may require, a Zoom call, and if you want to talk to me by Zoom, just shoot me an email. We can set that up. All right, I can usually be pretty flexible, and we can talk through course material or whatever. Finally, there is a final paper. The final paper has some parts to it. So a month before the paper deadline, which is basically the last day of classes, I want a prospectus. Prospectus is just a short statement of what you're going to do. I will have a link to a page that describes this a little bit more. But in a prospectus, I'm looking for you to identify a topic, a question, and a thesis. In other words, what's the general topic area you're looking at? What is the question you are asking in that topic area? And not a dozen questions, but a question. And then what is the thesis, which is really, at this point, the answer to the question. Okay? And if you can identify that, you've got the beginnings of a very clear and well-written paper. And so that's the prospectus that I'll be looking for, and I'll talk more about that as we go through the course. There is going to be a chance during I think the second last week of class. I think I said last week here, but it's actually second last week of class, in the discussion area, for you to basically present a very short version of your paper. And by short, I mean the sort of, kind of an elevator talk kind of thing. So a minute or two. You can do it by text, in textual form. I mean, you can do it in a video form of some sort. There's video capability within the Canvas system. But what I want you to do is to talk through it so that the rest of the people in class can see what you're thinking about, and maybe they have some ideas. Maybe they have some, somebody knows of a book that you don't know about. Maybe, as you talk through your arguments, somebody says, hey, have you thought about this? Or what about, is this a problem for you? Or, I heard somebody arguing a different point of view. How would you deal with that? Or, something where you can kind of make your final product of your final paper as thoughtful, as carefully articulated as possible, right? And so once you've done that, once you've done your prospectus, once you've done a descriptive thing in the post, then I'm looking on the last day of classes for your paper. And my goal, I say this to all my classes, is my goal is to get the best work out of you that I can. Okay, that's why we have these staged things. That's why I'm willing to, talk to you before the paper. I won't grade your paper before I grade it. In other words, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna respond if you send here's my draft, here's my full version of it. Can you tell me what grade you'd give me or whatever? I'm much more interested in talking through your ideas with you. Right, and then you writing them up and presenting them, giving me a paper. I would love for you to be able to do some really top quality work that relates to things that you care about. That is the goal, as far as I'm concerned. If you can take out of this course something where you can think ethically within institutions, within your whatever knowledge production that you're engaged in. If you can do that, I think you've got something really important. So that's the kind of work that we have in the course. And let's see, what else is there that we need to know about? If you look through this simple syllabus thingy here, and you scroll down, you will see lots and lots of policies. I would ask you to please read those. They're kind of scattered in various ways because this simple syllabus tool comes with some mandated policies that, I would normally have put these in a different order, but we have what we have. So there's lots and lots of stuff in here. It's, probably will answer a lot of your questions that you have. So please read all of this stuff first. Some of it should be pretty obvious, I think, to you. Some of it you will have seen plenty of times before, but that gives you an idea of how this course hopefully will work. Right, so that's kind of the overview. That's what we're going to be doing. I love this course. I mean, I think it's so much fun to think through ethics in this very grounded manner. Right? I mean, ethics is not just a kind of abstract game that philosophers play. Right? A lot of times people think about ethics as, the trolley problem, where we have to decide, which people would you kill by throwing the trolley switch and sending it down one track or another track, or these kind of abstract problems. And frankly, those are not very interesting problems to me. Right? I mean, I always want to ask, how do we get there in the first place? Like, what kind of messed up system has a trolley that works like that? What kind of person would tie people down like this? What motivated them? I mean, there's 100 questions that exist far before you have to decide, flip the switch this way or the other way. And that's where all the interesting ethical stuff happens. It happens far before that. And so that's what I want us to think about, right? Ideally, we don't even get to the question of, do you throw the switch this way or that way? That's in some ways the least interesting question. The much more interesting ones are, what kind of a social world is it that produces these sorts of things, and how could it have been different? Right? How could it have been different? So that's what we're going to be doing in the course. Since it's an online course, I am pretty open and available to talking about whatever you want. I can set up Zoom sessions if you want, and advertise them so that multiple people in the course can come on a Zoom session for a discussion. Or if you just have questions yourself and you want to talk about stuff, we can do that too. yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at for this course. So like I say, I really enjoy this course, and I am looking forward to the discussion with all of you. So I will see you in the discussion area.